Hello, everyone. I am Jason Ward from MakingStarWars.net. Hopefully, you can hear me. Apparently, I have levels, so I think you can. Yesterday on the show, I heard that we only had one speaker going at a time for some reason. Don't know what that's about, but I hopefully fixed it today. I just flipped some different switches, and it's not my interface because my interface is mono. With that said, we got some pretty cool Star Wars news today, I guess. I really quickly, like out of the blue, this Palpatine book was announced, and the Palpatine book, Unlimited Power: How Star Wars: The Secrets of the Sith Will Take Fans to the Dark Side. And so it's called Star Wars: The Secrets of the Sith, and it's written from Emperor Palpatine's perspective, with author Mark Semick and artist Sergio Gomez Silvan or Silvan. It has like an accent mark, so sounds fancy though. I'll say that much. So the art on the book cover looks rad, and it's from Palpatine's perspective, so that's awesome. And so I read through a bit of the sample of it really quickly, and it was cool. It's from Palpatine's perspective. It's like first person, you know. So he's like, then I took him and I made him a robot man, you know. So you could read it in that voice all you want. Have fun. Have fun doing that if that's your thing. And I almost forgot, but on the YouTube side, we have channel members, which is the best way to support the channel right now. Today, I'm streaming out to Facebook Live and Twitch as well. And I upgraded my StreamYard membership so that way I could do that stuff. I don't know if I could do it before, but I upgraded, so I had unlimited time, and we can do that. So I wanted to get the show onto other platforms like podcast platforms, but it's kind of a pain in the ass, just to be honest with you, like every day to go and convert it to audio and then to upload it and all that jazz. I still may do it, and I'm just not there yet, but I figured throwing this up on Twitch and on Facebook video would at least give people maybe another avenue of catching it if they have problems listening via YouTube for whatever reason. YouTube does that thing where when you minimize it, the audio cuts off, which is so frustrating. And also just one little complaint too. I used YouTube TV, I like the whole DVR setup on it and all that jazz. But man, it kind of sucks that they have everything so fragmented. Like I wish it was like YouTube Music and that was just one thing. If they did that, they'd be huge. But Justin Westwood, thank you. Justin Westwood just became a channel member, and I appreciate that. Over on the YouTube side of things, you could come over, and we have like sort of like a private message board kind of area set up on there, and you can tell me what you want to hear. We could also do some members only kind of chats or whatever. And when we do that, we could decide what we want those to be. Like, I mean, do we want to get ridiculous? I got Star Wars Battleship. Do you got Star Wars Battleship? Because we can totally play Star Wars Battleship over this. So I will take you on. And you guys could take on each other. I'll just be like the game master. But we could do stuff like that. It's all up in the air. I don't have anything completely set about what that will be. First and foremost, I just want it to be a way for anyone who wants to support the channel. Let me get some upgrades going as the show goes on and stuff like that. So if that is within your means, awesome. If not, cool. Come as you are. Everybody's welcome. The only, I guess, kind of idea behind the channel that I have is that we talk about Star Wars. We celebrate it. We love it. And that's kind of where it's supposed to be. Obviously, it's kind of impossible to, at times, not discuss sort of stories that go around, but at the same time that, there's another one today that the sequel trilogy's been canceled, and Kathleen Kennedy is it could take down the new dude at Disney or something like that. That sounds crazy to me, guys. Sounds nuts. I think maybe you'll hear about it more on our friend Matt Jarbo's show. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just a guy who tries to drink coffee on camera and can't because it's totally awkward. So, hey, oh yeah. So let me say hi to everybody. We got Steve here. How's it going, Steve? And so it's kind of cool when I could see what platform you're on now. So that's kind of neat. Whenever I type one thing in the chat, though, it goes across every platform, and that's a little weird. But good afternoon, Mr. Jarbo. I have to say, every time I see Matt Jarbo's name, I can't help but think Matt Jarbo Catan. So that's your Star Wars name, buddy. All right, Kenneth brings up Rogue Squadron. How's it going, dude? I'm interested in seeing Rogue Squadron, but it's probably at the bottom of my to watch list. I feel like we've been oversaturated with X-Wings lately. Okay, so let's like get into the Rogue Squadron quote of the day. Patty Jenkins was talking to the Associated Press, and she said, "I'm Patty Jenkins, just right now, in case you don't know. Call me Patty. I'm in love with all three projects on my plate right now. I'm definitely doing Rogue Squadron next, and I'm excited to do Wonder Woman 3." And then she goes on to say, the Michael Stackpole books and the video games and all the Rogue Squadron books, there's an incredible history that's really important to honor. And yet it has to be brought to a new age. That is that part right there. It has to be brought to a new age. That's the part that's the standout that I think confirms the press release. It sucks you have to have a confirmation on a press release, but there's so much ambiguity and secrecy. They made it sound like it was set in the future. I believe it's set in the future. I think this a new age. I don't think it means 2021. I think it means a new era of Star Wars. But she goes on to say, because we all have to tell a new story with it. And you're trying to blend the best of everything and make it a great fighter pilot movie, which I've always wanted to make as well. It's a big brew of things that that you're trying to put together and still trying to keep a simple story. So there we have it, right? We have her talking about it's going to be set, I think, in the future. It's not 100% based off of that quote, but I think when you put all of these quotes together, you start to really get a lot of context clues that that's exactly what this is. This is set in the episode 9, post episode 9 era, probably. And I'm excited for that. Now, to go back to Kenneth's kind of point, is that he's like kind of wishy-washy on it because he's oversaturated with X-Wings. Well, what I would say to that, to hopefully make you maybe make you excited about it, but it's hard to say, is that what we've got are X-Wings showing up and flying on screen and being mundane space cops, right? But this is going to be in that genre of film, the World War II to the Top Gun. I think what she's kind of almost trying to get at, she's not trying to be specific, but and maybe she would love to say Top Gun, but with Top Gun 2 coming out, I think it's coming out. If I'm wrong about that, it was coming out at one point. I think with Val Kilmer even making a small appearance, which gave us Willow fans a tiny bit of hope that maybe, just maybe. But with that in mind, it's probably going to pull on a lot of those kind of like strings, and then also make it something new. And like all of like most modern filmmaking, as most of you probably know, probably better than I do, that it's kind of become sort of postmodern in the sense that it's the superhero genre with the political thriller equals Winter Soldier and, Batman Returns or something like that. And so what we're having here is we're having, I think, one part Star Wars as a genre, one part fighter pilot genre kind of thing. And is the fighter pilot thing a genre? I think it is. I mean, when you go back to just like Dam Busters kind of films and then mix that in with Top Gun and a little bit of Iron Eagle. And I'll be honest, Top Gun and Iron Eagle are corny ass movies. But as a kid, watched them all the time. Loved them. I couldn't get enough of them. And, you have usually a young person who the kid could identify with, who's now in a machine that flies at fast velocity, could bring destruction, but also save the day. And so there's the ability to make a really thrilling movie, especially for children. And with our current generation's Arrested Development, it still works for us. And I think that it could really connect. And I'm also going to say, and this isn't a slight on Dave Filoni, but when I see Dave Filoni flying an X-wing, I see, hey, look at that guy realizing his dream. Nobody wanted to grow up to be Dave Filoni in the X-wing, just like nobody wants to grow up to be me in the X-wing. You know, I mean, he's not Tom Cruise, he's not Maverick, he's not Louis Gossett Jr. You know what I mean? He's like maybe one of the more mundane Star Wars characters when you get down to it, but he's supposed to be in that sense. They're like the cops sitting in the car drinking the coffee, and then, you know, whoa, it goes up, and then we got to catch them, you know, like they're not the bandit, they're Smokey. But in this kind of movie, you're going to have the bandit flying the plane, and that's what you want. You know what I mean? You don't want to see space cops, you want to see Smokey and the bandit in space. So how do you make that work? Well, the military, you know what I mean? And in Star Wars The Mandalorian, we were getting more of the Smokey and the Bandit angle for it. So that's my hope. Now, I could be totally wrong. It could be like the lamest thing ever. I mean, who knows, right? Until we see something or we know something about it, it's just impossible to really get a read on it. And like people ask me like all the time, like, how do you feel about the Book of Boba Fett? Man, if you ask me in 5 minutes, I'll say 10 out of 10. Can't wait. Need more boba. And if you ask me right now, I'll say, oh, you know, it's about a 4 out of 10. Like, you know, sounds fun, I hope. But without like really knowing anything about it, it's kind of hard to like get excited about aspects of it. And my dream, which will never happen in the current era of Star Wars, but my dream is that the people who make these clips, who, you know, get paid the big bucks and think that they know better than the fans, would understand how to milk things that are not that important, that don't ruin the story, but also allow people to celebrate and anticipate that thing as time goes on. It's paid off for them at times, but like Solo, a Star Wars story, no one even knew it really came out. People just were like, Star Wars just came out. What? And there was absolutely nothing telling people it was coming for a long time. They didn't get the word out until too late. And so it definitely can hurt things, but it was definitely, I think, more fun back in the Attack of the Clones era when George Lucas was posting George Lucas Selects, which were like these like artistic-esque photos that he was taking of sometimes mundane stuff. And sometimes that makes fans mad. Sometimes it does. But I think if you're a fan, you want anything at any time that you can get it. Like, let me see it. Let me see something. And it also lets us appreciate sometimes, like that series, let us appreciate things that weren't really featured that much in the film, that was kind of in the background. You know, George Lucas always said that a special effect without a story is a pretty boring thing. And that is true. But when you are appreciating the art of the cinema or film, you do want to see those backgrounds. You don't want time wasted in the story, but you don't mind when you get photographs, when we get these art books and things like that. And it would be nicer if we got more bones thrown our way, and we really don't. And it's like, I just will never understand the perspective of it. And I don't want to go off the deep end and be like, it's gatekeeping, because it's not. But at the same time, like, Star Wars inspired a generation of filmmakers by being pretty freaking open about what they'll show and the special effects, how they're done as they're doing it. And they were and the only time that they ever went too far was during the prequel era, when George Lucas is like, none of this is real. It's not real, you guys. None of it. It's all fake. It's all blue screen. Can you believe it? Look what I could do with computers. And then he pushed the boundaries on what audiences will accept, and everybody's like, everything's fake. Whereas on the film they did it the most on was The Phantom Menace, and it has more models than most of the Star Wars movies that they put out before. So what does that tell us? Moderation. Don't go off talking about how your movie's fake. Don't do that. Show us some behind the scenes stuff. What I have liked recently, for what it's worth, like Patty Jenkins, for instance, she talks about Rogue Squadron. Most of the people who are making their movies, even though she's really good at not really giving anything away, most of them just are like, don't know, oh no, oh, Lucasfilm's gonna get my family, so they don't want to say anything. She seems a bit more measured on that level, I guess is what I would say. So my dumbass uses YouTube Premium, so the sound keeps going minimized. Yeah, like it makes no sense. Like if you're paying like the $65 for the YouTube TV, they should just throw all that other stuff in there, I would think. But Justin goes on to say, channel member, thank you, Justin. Do you put any stock into writers getting announced? I always feel like writers get overly judged for how their work could be changed just by interpretation from a director. Yeah, see, like that's what's weird. Like when it comes to writers on a Star Wars movie is, number one, Star Wars isn't like unique in the sense about how it's made. It's still made in this industry. And what you have is Lucasfilm will get a script written and they might not like it, or it might be like, well, this is good, but we're gonna bring in Justin, and then we're gonna have Tim Roberts come and do the next draft, because we like the way that Tim Roberts does dialogue passes and how he finishes stuff up, and like that's what happens. But when they announce that Justin Westwood is writing Star Wars Chewbacca babies, then and then it gets removed, it becomes like this shaming story, or it turns into this big thing, and it's just like, man, all that junk that most people watch all the time has several writers on it. But with Star Wars, we follow the productions, whereas we don't really care about some rando action movie, and that's what I think changes things a lot in this whole setup, if you will. So I totally skipped a bunch of the chat on accident, but let me try and get back to it, because I have to do this every single day. Mike Pappas is here. Watch out, everybody. Check wallets and pockets. Okay, keep your hand on it. Watch out. Chandler Dyson, how's it going, Chandler? I'm just hoping for another large-scale space battle to compare to Scarif or Endor. Exegol space battle was weak sauce. Yeah, Exegol battle had some really beautiful shots, but the actual execution of it, the heart, they didn't have a big heart in making that work. It was like the focus was all on the other side of things, and it was just, this is what you do. I mean, if it wasn't Abrams, like if it wasn't his charter to make that epic, I'd be like, cool. You know what I mean? And maybe it wasn't. But when you do a shot where every single ship from Star Wars ever shows up and goes boom, well, buddy, you got to follow up on something with that. You can't start with that and then end with, I don't remember. There wasn't a great end shot to that thing. Even like when Exegol kind of goes down, it's like, I feel like they didn't want to take Exegol out even. I remember when I first saw the movie, I was like, oh man, they're just gonna, all you gotta do is get your little space mask on, go to Exegol, start digging, and you're gonna find all kinds of Sith relics, and you're gonna make a whole new Sith Lord out of that. I mean, one of those Snoke bodies might be kind of okay in there, right? I mean, it's possible. Also, obviously it was just because it was cool, but why was Snoke, like, why did he still have the Snoke clones hanging around? Like, what was that about, But so Mike Pappas, and then and then so anyways, what I was going to say about to Chandler is that at the end of Rogue Squadron, you almost have to have the best space battle of all time, right? I mean, if you're making the spaceship movie, you know, like what does George Lucas always say? It's not just spaceships, which is I had a quote from my interview with him yesterday. If you saw that cheese. But this one is kind of just spaceships in a way. Obviously, it means subtext, but this one it matters. So if it doesn't have the best space battle ever, then it has to have literally the best dogfight of all time. And man, it's hard. I don't know how people make dogfights that can go on into like a 15-minute kind of thing that keep you in it. Like that sounds complicated. And could it happen? I'm sure. I'm not. I've seen Patty Jenkins films. I liked the first Wonder Woman. I saw it in the theater, but I wasn't like a fan. Not to say I'm not rooting for her. I am. I just don't really know what to expect. And to go back to the writers thing too, like when the writer was announced, I had a lot of people were kind of bummed about that. A lot of people were kind of bummed out. And I was just like, I don't think it matters. I mean, you don't know what somebody's going to do when they're combining genres, when they're writing Star Wars with these other genres. You don't know what to expect. Like, I would even probably say that most of you would probably have groaned if Lawrence Kasdan was hired today based off of everything he did that wasn't Star Wars or Indiana Jones. I think that's very probably true. Myself probably included. I like Silverado. I think it's fun. But like, what's that other one with the baby boomers all coming of age? God, I was pretty bored in that one. Hey, Qui-Gon. I'm still gonna do it every time. Qui-Gon became a channel member. Thank you, dude. I really, really appreciate the support, man. It means a lot, and it helps me be able to do this. So thank you. Hey, Jay, how's it going, dude? Oh, look, Jay's on Facebook. That's crazy. We got people on Facebook. I wasn't sure if anybody would see it. Man, Facebook, like, it was cool because I have a large following on the Facebook channel, and it was rad because like I would put out a story and like 30,000 people would see it. Great, right? Then they started like throttling everything where hey, give us $10 and we'll let you 400 people see your story. And it's like, how much do you think we make off these stories already, Facebook? But I'm glad to see somebody found us by a Facebook video, and good to see you, Jay. Mr. Lopez, hey, how's it going, dude? Kieran, how's it going out there in Ireland? Is it really Ireland? Is it Octu? You got porgs? You got porgs out there? Anyways, hey, how's it going? Shogun Orda. That one stumped me for a second. But it's better than Jarbo the Hutt. Yeah, for sure. Because that's Jarbo Catan. So you need longer hair. Probably true, Jeff. Probably true. But unfortunately, God hates me and said, you know what? We are going to take your curly blonde vampire stat locks away from you, and you're going to have one choice. That's shave your head or just kind of look like you're not in your prime anymore. And I was just like, you know what? It's a pandemic. I'm going to shave my head. Monobite. Top Gun 2 is November and Val is in it. Iceman is an Admiral now. That's awesome. Yeah, I hope Val Kilmer totally recovers, and if he's not in the first Willow, he's in the second. And I hope that they have an interesting way of making that happen. Because like the thing about it that was always on my mind is like with Willow 2, which is a Lucasfilm production, in case anybody isn't aware, is that the Willow's story anyway, is that it is going to be kind of a problem because Val Kilmer and Joan Wally, I think it said Wally, were married. They actually met on the set of Willow, and she was like, "Damn, you're the Iceman," and he was like, "Damn, you're fine, Sorsha." And then they got married, and I think had babies and stuff, and were married for like a long time. And they're not married anymore. So, what does that mean if they were to ever try and get them back? Like, are they friends? I don't know. Was it amicable? Would they work together just to work together in a Willow sequel? I've seen Val Kilmer, do press and stuff for Willow in the past, like when the DVD was coming out, and like that was cool, and like you could tell he loved it, and you could tell he and Warwick had like a rapport. Joan Wally, I've never. Is it Joan or Joanne? See, I'm blanking on her name right now because I suck. But I've never seen her really talk about it very much after. So I don't know if that matters either. But it might just be where she's at in her career and what she wants to be, and probably doesn't want to be remembered for a fantasy movie that was, not really going to further her today. If she even still acts, I have no idea. So Jonathan says, please don't set it on the sequels. I really don't have any connections with those pilots. So that's an interesting one, Jonathan, because you have a couple of ways of going about it. And in my opinion, like the way that the sequel trilogy ends, Poe Dameron is sort of set up to be either Chancellor doesn't feel right of the Republic, but he seems like he's in charge of the military. He is going to be, by the end of that, he and Finn are generals. And how, is it going to play on those tropes like in Top Gun when they buzz the tower and, what's his name from Back to the Future, who says that there's never been a winner, McFly, in the history of Hill Valley? You have to almost have that I'm a jerk, and then you earn the respect of the admiral, right? I mean, that's kind of what happens in those movies a lot, or at least in some ways. So the only other way that they could, or not the only other way, but I mean, or that's like the Top Gun way, right? You got the brass and the ass, kind of how it goes. So brass and ass, or we got Iron Eagle. There's this problem. I got to steal a jet, and I need Poe Dameron to help me, train me, and help me. That's like one kind of way of taking the story. So that way, that could bring Poe in, but you can't have Poe being Strickland from Back to the Future. It doesn't work. He's too heroic, too young, too good looking, too likable, and so I don't know, how you would actually like do that. I almost have to think that these are going to be new characters. And in the sequel trilogy, Poe's squadron is Black Squadron, right? And this is Rogue Squadron. So this means like was Rogue Squadron dismantled after the Battle of Endor or Jakku or whatever, probably Jakku. But when the New Republic is formed, and is this the reforming of it for some reason? And if it is, it would probably mean a generation of new pilots. They killed most of the ones that we saw on screen. You had a couple of aliens, and I don't know if there's enough there, honestly, Jonathan. Like, so I think you're going to be fine. That's my takeaway. I mean, we did see Wedge show up in episode 9, though. And so that is a question I think worth throwing out there. Is Wedge going to be the guy who's like, the brass? And Wedge is pretty nice. He seems really nice, but I think he could play. I think he could play Grumpy in his advanced age if he wanted to. When I say advanced, I say that nicely because he looks great, But I mean, it would be cool, right? It would be cool to see Wedge kind of like as one of the elder statesmen of the and Rogue Squadron starts up again, and you have these new heroes and all that, and um, I'm curious. Also, like in this movie, will they make the hero a boy or girl, female, male, however you want to look at it? Like, will they go that route? I have to be honest that on this one, I'm hoping it's a guy. Like, we've got a lot of lady Star Wars heroes recently, and I think with the fighter pilot one, it would be kind of cool if it was a dude, because it's been a while. And if it's not, I'm not gonna start crying and making YouTube videos about Kathleen Kennedy killing my childhood or something. Like, it's not that big of a deal, but it would be kind of neat, I think, to if it played into that they didn't just try to subvert expectations. But with it being Patty Jenkins, it's gonna make people assume, I think, that the hero would be a female lead. I don't know. What do you guys think? Does it matter? I don't even know if it matters. Kind of wishy washy on it. On one hand, like on in one way, like you kind of want that like sort of level of stupidity, masculine stupidity. On the other hand, I don't know if it matters. Let me know what you guys think. I'm still working through this on camera, so if I said something stupid, I said something stupid. Top Gun 2 and Dune delayed in UK and Ireland. Man, that sucks. Yeah, I'm kind of excited for Dune. Like, when they were kind of like, I mean, it's always been more of a sociological, anthropological, political Star Wars for adults. Came before, obviously. And I enjoyed the book when I read it the first time. The second time I read it, I enjoyed it even more because so much of the like stuff about the politics and stuff like that was so much easier. Just you understood it. There was no like what, huh? Just boom right through it. So I'm interested in seeing how that movie unfolds. I think it could be fun to have something, an alternative to Star Wars that Star Wars fans would like, right? Like, I don't think that's a bad thing, especially if they play into Dune's actual strengths. But at the same time, like, I've never really been completely sure if it would work as a movie, like how they're doing that Lord of the Rings Amazon series or whatever it's set in that universe. But if they had done it that way, where they could actually like grow that story and just really dig in and build it, I think that would have been a better way to go. But I'm still excited though, especially when we're able to go back to theaters sooner than later. I'm still not going to the movies because my kids aren't vaccinated. Um, so it's like, and I know that they have supposedly less risk and things like that, but I'm just not risking it. Like, once my kids can get vaccinated, that's when I will go to the movies. Hey, Mr. Lopez says he's an X-wing fanatic, so I can't talk about this. I'm gonna always be wanting more. Yeah, yeah. As a child, like that was my probably my favorite thing ever. You know, that was probably like what that toy. I had like the original toy, and I'm gonna get a little bit nostalgic here. I talked about it a little bit on the stream, but as a kid, like I wish there were photos of my childhood in 1984 because there was just so much like Star Wars toys in my neighborhood. Like when we would play with X-Wing fighters, someone would see me with it. I was usually the kid who kicked it off, and everyone would go and get theirs. Some kids had the battle damage decals on, some didn't. I was always kind of jealous. I always had the battle damage one because I had a Return of the Jedi X-Wing, and very few kids had TIE fighters, but some had TIE fighters, and we would have like this is not like an exaggeration. There would be 9 or 10 of us, maybe sometimes 12 of us with X-Wings. And it was so fun as a child to play with toys and to like do that. Obviously, it wouldn't be fun as an adult. It would be ridiculous. And I always hoped I would grow up and my kids would be into Star Wars and then I could just watch them do it. I had kids, they're into Star Wars, but they don't play with toys. They play with loot boxes. Sorry, I shouldn't say loot boxes. That's Overwatch. They play with they want Fortnite skins, and I get it. It makes sense, but and it's fun. At the same time, hard to take a photograph of your kid playing with a Fortnite skin. We are all Porkins. Yeah, that's what should happen. Like, it should be about, like, there should be the scene where everybody's like, I'm Porkins and I'm Porkins. Yeah, we're all Porkins. That's true, though. I'm more C3PO. Okay, I think that's fair. You can be a Porkins or a C3PO, but you're probably not a Poe Dameron. You're probably not a Natalie Portman or a Padme. Yeah. Good day, sports fans. Hey, Two Bed Two. How's it going, dude? AntMan. Hey, y'all. Good to see you, dude. I want to get AntMan on here, and I got to get Santa on too. Star Wars Santa. I was sort of like, okay, how much? I haven't like talked to anybody, and Ben. I need have Ben on, and anyone else who wants to come on, just hit me up. But I couldn't decide if I was going to go with StreamYard. Decided, you know what, I'm going to try StreamYard for a month, and so I went with it, and I have time now. I was running out of time. Honestly, the fact that this is like my third week of streaming straight is amazing, because I did not even think about doing this unless my subconscious was doing the calculations the whole time. That little evil Palpatine in me, it just kind of happened. So, what does that say? If Rogue Squadron is post episode 9, I really hope to see at least Poe, hopefully Rey as well, says Josh. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Like, or maybe just like a reference at least to Rey, like, because we don't know what that story, what they're gonna do with that story, and I think Poe probably matters. And my Rogue Squadron hope is Wedge and Poe Dameron. That would make the most sense, and that would also, really, it would be a callback to two trilogies with two of the main fighter pilots who we saw in them, who were great, and that it should be about that culture. You know what I mean? At the same time, like when it comes to like Rey, like that one though, I think it would depend on the context, and like, what is Rey doing at that point. And on the other side of things, you need these heroes to believe that, and I use this loosely, but that God is not going to save them, you know, which is sort of like what you have in these superhero kind of stories. You know what I mean? Essentially, somebody with godlike powers shows up and saves the day. And if they don't save the day, and if they don't believe that they're the only ones who can do it and it's up to them, then we won't believe it either. And then the movie will feel kind of mundane. And like, so that's why I'm always like a little bit like about certain storylines, like the end of Mandalorian season 2. When Luke came, we all love it because Luke came. Don't quote that, but we all love it because Luke showed up. And with that in mind, I think it's a very fair question to ask. Was Luke showing up and saving the day at the end of that season the best thing for Din Djarin and Bo-Katan and Cara Dune? You know what I mean? Like was that, it was kind of the easy fix. It was the quick save. Now, in terms of the story, it's totally fine because now we have Grogu passed on to who he was supposed to go, mission completed. So they made it there, and so it's okay. But on a story called The Mandalorian, about the Mandalorian, it was good for Star Wars, but was it good for those characters? Those characters, was their resolution found in the mission? Yes, but not between themselves and not with the actual villain. So, which I don't for a second believe like that's where that ends, and neither should you. But So with that in mind, yeah, we do. It does need to hinge on the hero, and that goes for episode 9 as well. Like somebody made a really good video. It's really well done, where Rey is, has the lightsaber and Palpatine's doing the lightning, and she's pushing against, and then you see all the Jedi showing up in spirit to help her. Beautifully done. In my opinion, it robs Rey of what she has accomplished as a character in the story, and it doesn't necessarily make it Rey who did it. And it's a fair argument though to say, like, Anakin set it up. It was Anakin was the first one who put her on this. Yeah, but in the end, that trilogy is Rey's story. And so that's where I get like a little bit. And same thing, like it was amazing for the time. You guys remember Adawan, who did like special editions of A New Hope? Amazing work, like truly beautifully done. At the same time, I had a thematic problem, like with when you show 30 X-Wings, because a line of dialogue said there were 30 X-Wings, it does not give off the visual appearance of a small band of rebels infiltrating the Death Star and blowing it up. It isn't the little guy versus that. When you see 30 ships, your brain just automatically goes, that's a lot. That's a fair fight, even though it's not. So, like, I was always like, why didn't they just change the dialogue to there's 7 ships or 6, whatever it happens to be? So that's kind of, but anyways, I just feel it's really, really important that the wins go to new characters, because then if those new characters have no true wins, if it's always like reliant upon another hero or a hero who we like better or before, no one gets to actualize and become anything of substance. And at least not without a lot of time. Like Ahsoka, they gave her a lot of wins. If every win that she ever had was based off of Anakin and Obi-Wan, we wouldn't like her. She wouldn't have been as successful. But that's also a little bit different because they had like 100 episodes. Hey, Tim, what is your opinion on Lucasfilm changing canon from the books when the events are shown in a series? So that's a hard one. My opinion is the screen matters. The screen matters the most. Whatever anyone sees on their TV or on their phones or whatever, that's going to be what you remember. That's going to be what sticks. And the amount of viewers on one live action thing is so much compared to 100,000 books sold. So with that said, there definitely is a hierarchy of importance. Now, it makes me really annoyed, and it burns me out when the canon of books and events is like not respected or is sort of changed around. But at the same time, I think as fans, we have to be reasonable. Like, they fly now. There were people who were just livid about it. Well, they flew in Boba Fett and jetpacks and Mandalorians, and I'll fly now. Like, of course they fly. We saw it in this comic, and we saw it like, and it's just like, it's kind of like, you know what? You can just rationalize that, for instance, by the fact that we've seen the First Order, and we've never seen them flying after Rey and them on screen. And when we did see in the comic book that had like some of the jetpack stuff, it wasn't the same. So it's like a so what? And it's almost like a game of not to sound like one of those guys online, but it sounds like gotcha. Like, we caught you in a mistake. We've been buying all of your stuff at a premium, and it's just like, it's kind of like like, so what? It's like that one right there, you can make that one work. But at the same time, like, there's also has to be room for human error, because these aren't made by the Wills. These are made by people in San Francisco who go to take meetings and get book deals. I mean, that's pretty much what it comes down to. So like, and then like you have stuff like reshoots and things that happen. And so you have like Melchi dying a couple different ways in various books, and we're going to see him in the television show. And I think there's going to be more of an emphasis on that because of that. At the same time, all we could really hope is that they try their best, and that at the bare minimum, when they do a reprint, they update it. I mean, that is truly the best way to go about it, is to simply do new editions. And if it's a digital version, just automatically give us the new edition of the book. That seems fair. It seems like a very small fix, and I think it would actually make their line have a lot more. There would be a lot more respect to it in that way. At the same time, that's a power that you cannot abuse. You know, you can't go and say, and Rey was truly a nobody, just a standard space loser like the rest of us. Sign the author of this book. And then go, ooh, we changed our mind, and then erase that and go, oh, Rey's Palpatine's clone granddaughter's sort of a granddaughter, sort of not thing. Wow. Like, that would be unfair. That would be cheap. But, you know, we just have to, like, you know, be real and hope for the best on the stuff. And, you know, if you really love the books, and like if print Star Wars is your jam, then I think you almost have to roll with those punches, because it's just the reality of it. If they stop making Star Wars altogether, then there you go. Like, then things just become immovable. The sun, you know, it's never going to go away. But until that happens, if you're going to read a living canon, we just have to be real. And we just have to hope that they respect us enough, and the money that we spend on the books enough, that they don't treat us like garbage, and that they, you know that we care about canon, and that we're buying these based off of a canonical promise. And I don't think that they are doing anything bad. I don't think that there's anything that where they're meaning to do these kinds of things. But also, like, you know, when you get like J.J. Abrams hired on, he's going to do what he wants to do. And I don't think he's going to care. He's just going to be like a bull in a china shop over some of those little things. And then now it's up to the print makers to fix that. And we can just hope for the best. But it's not the end of the world. None of this is real. So it's like, when something changes, I just roll with it, you know? Like, I love the Marvel comics. None of it fits into most anything now. The vintage Marvel comic line. Nothing will come close to that for me out of nostalgia. The art is unique, you know, all that stuff. And the stories are weird, but they don't take themselves too seriously. And I love it, right? Well, it's not hard for me to read it and to go like, yeah, so this is a story. And, you know, I'm not like, but, you know, it doesn't do that to me, because I just have accepted that. But I also, to be fair, had years to accept that, because those haven't been canon most ever. And then they haven't really been canon since the 90s, when everything restarted again. So, Justin, do you put any stock into writers getting an... Okay, sorry. I think I had accidentally skipped ahead to that one before. Whoa, this chat, it just jumps way forward. And I think I have been talking for so long that I need to speed it up. So, hey, Santa, how's it going, dude? Just a bit behind catching up. Palp Book sounds great. Yeah, that art is fantastic. And based off of what we saw, it looks like it has a really good tone. The tone of Palpatine feels captured in those samples. So I think it's going to be fun. It is close, but not my dream book. But even then, I want that Palpatine. I want the Palpatine book. I want how Palpatine becomes what he becomes. And I think Acolyte might be the road there. The Leslie Headland show, Star Wars Acolyte, might be how we make it there. This book might be coming out in a certain way because of materials that were gathered, even, you know, and defined as canon and as their kind of Bible or source book that they must have was clearly being etched out post Skywalker saga, I would imagine that is informing Acolyte and the ability for this book to exist, because young Palpatine would be so interesting. And it's like there's so many cool ways of doing it. Like with Anakin Skywalker, I've said this before, he was put into a position where the love of his life and his child was going to die. So who wouldn't move the universe in whatever way to fix that? Like, not the right thing to do, but I could understand it. Like anybody with an ounce of empathy could understand why Anakin made the mistake that he makes. And it doesn't justify Darth Vader, but you understand it as a human. Palpatine, we never have empathy for him. He is just the embodiment of evil. And he doesn't need to be anything more in those stories but a symbol of evil. But at the same time, if you believe the blank slate, tabula rasa, we were all, born with the ability to be the best or the worst. Luke Skywalker has to contend with this evil and this good inside of him, and he has to decide which he's going to put out into the universe. I mean, that's true of all of us. We could get into a philosophical debate on, is free will even a concept? I mean, there's a lot going against free will, I won't lie. But that said, you algorithms, Palpatine at some point was a baby. It's back to the old, do you kill Hitler when he's a baby? Do you do it? I don't know. Or do you try to change him and hope that he wouldn't become that? But Palpatine became Sidious. That happened. So why did it happen? What's the story there? Like, it could be so fascinating, and it could almost be like a way of getting into this sort of like wizard sort of story, like, almost like what they did in Harry Potter with Voldemort. Like, I would love to see that with Palpatine, but with its own unique Star Wars spin. And then, at the end, like in Breaking Bad with what's his name, Walt, we see that he's lost his way. Like, you understand this in Breaking Bad, this guy has cancer. He's going to die. He wants his family to be taken care of. They don't pay teachers right. How does the slippery slope begin? And so I think giving Palpatine that kind of story and then seeing it, but then hitting that point where you're like, okay, Palp, now you've lost me. Now this isn't about why you started it. It could be a fascinating movie, and or a series or whatever. I would love to see it. I would read it in a book. Would much rather see it on screen though. Hey Chris, how's it going, dude? Exegol should have been the space battle of all space battles. All the ingredients were there. You're not wrong there. You're really not. I don't know why it didn't happen. I don't know why. I have to think maybe it was because of the shorter duration that they had for developing that story. I don't know. Yeah, I wish it had been. There's this weird part of me that doesn't want to pit Star Wars against Star Wars, but Return of the Jedi is still king for me. Love the Rogue One, fantastic end battle for sure, but Return of the Jedi still, it has it has it all. And I feel like if Patty Jenkins doesn't bring that in this one, it's going to be a huge disappointment. Whether it's scope, scale, or intensity, I don't know. Like, that's like the other thing is like that shot. I love the shot of all the ships when they show up. It's fantastic. It's so cool. Makes a great poster. At the same time, it is sort of emotionally indecipherable when you see it. It's like it's not personal at that point. It's not like the fleet. Like, I don't see, like, it's weird. It's really, really sort of strange. Love that it exists, though. I wouldn't take it away for anything, but I would also say that, yeah, that battle just. I even love the crazy stuff, like Finn on the space horse riding, on it. Like that's bizarre, and I dig it. I've never seen that before. Love that, but at the same time, the execution of it was just a lot of writing. There wasn't too much to it for me. It doesn't emotionally resonate enough. Hey, Matt. So Jarbo Katan says, given the lack of action in Wonder Woman 84, I'm a little bit concerned that Patty will deliver on aerial combat. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like with the original Star Wars movies, you had people like Phil Tippett and Joe Johnston and stuff that were, I think, bringing a lot of ideas to the table for shots and what could be done and stuff like that. I don't think any one director or person can make that happen. I just don't think there's enough time. So I think that if they have some sort of process, some sort of way to work on that, and that's not taking her away from her ability as a director. I changed my seat. It's like a bench. Bad idea. Anyways, it's just like there's just so many shots in a Star Wars movie. It's like, how does one person do it? So that probably won't be the case. We will probably have to have like a team of people who are helping with those concepts, and then she will take those moves and make them. But I also have to imagine that they are just like doing animatics and compiling shots from every World War II and fighter pilot movie and stuff like that, and to make that happen. And I will say too, the best thing, and they sold it hard on the announcement, is that her father was a fighter pilot, and with that in mind, like I think that's going to help her make sure these heroes are human. When I say human, you know what I mean. That they are beings that we care for. So, yeah, interesting. Kind of interesting situation. Like I liked Wonder Woman 84 when it started, and it was like the Superman movies from when I was a kid. I was into it. The scene with the kid and the baby in the mall, I was like, I'm gonna love this movie. And then as it continued, I literally started not looking at the TV as it went on. I just completely became detached from the movie and truly never finished it. And so I don't know what to make of that. At the same time, I don't necessarily think that making a Wonder Woman movie, let's just pretend like if she made the best Wonder Woman movies ever that could ever happen, and she made them continuously, I don't think that would mean she would make a good Star Wars movie, in the same sense that it making one good Wonder Woman movie and one that was kind of okay. I just don't. I think it's two different things. So that's my hope anyway. That said, I really felt like the Wonder Woman movie 2 could have played on the 80s a bit better. So, yeah, I sometimes I feel too, AntMan. Hey Neil, how's it going, dude? Who would be the enemy in Rogue Squadron? The Gris pirates? Yeah, that's like a good question. I mean, it could go. I mean, as we have seen, Star Wars does like to make us believe that the fight ends in one battle. That the battle on Exegol was it. But what if, just throwing this out there was First Order all over the galaxy still? Battles going on in other places. I think there was too. In fact, we know that there was because we see some shots. So there's a chance that if they just make a new sentence and say the First Order, made so much Imperial stuff, and look at what we have in Mandalorian, where we have this Imperial remnant that is still kicking around, that same situation could exist. And since this is called Star Wars, not Peace Wars, not Star Peace, whatever, it would make sense, right? It would make sense that they would continue to fight those characters or that machine. Maybe. I mean, it could be something entirely new. I mean, when you get down to it, like, look at how many like space movies we have here just on Earth. Independence Day. You can make a whole Independence Day fighter pilot movie, and just here, so you could like literally just have a story set on one world, and have that be where this whole thing takes place. It doesn't necessarily have to be an intergalactic struggle to be a huge, visually stunning war or battle, I would say. AntMan says, I kind of feel like this will be the Top Gun of Star Wars films. Yeah, I think that's what they want to say, but now they can't. But I also think that with Top Gun coming back, this kind of allows Disney to have their movie in that way, you know? Hey, Thorn, how's it going, dude? More of a Memphis Belle of Star Wars. Yeah, Memphis Belle's a great movie. I haven't seen that in years, but I remember really, really liking it. As a kid, Chino's not far from my house, and I saw lots of World War II planes and stuff like that. My dad was kind of into that stuff. It was kind of interesting, though. There was this fighter pilot named Pappy Boynton from World War II who flew a Corsair. And whenever he would see me there, he would like pick me up, talk to me. I was like his little buddy. He was really old then too. I was probably 5-ish, 6 years old. And yeah, then like later on, I found out that old guy was just this badass dude who was like a drunk and had Black Sheep Squadron, and they had a TV show about him called Black Sheep that I didn't know about until later on. And the TV shows with Robert Conrad or something like that. It was okay. I enjoyed it for what it was. But man, I would love to see old Pappy, a character like Pappy, come into the Star Wars universe, because it would work so well. I mean, my personal hope is that they're pulling on Black Sheep Squadron to some extent and building it from there too, because that's just such a good story. I mean, there's like moments where the Americans, like Pappy, and the Japanese people are talking crap to each other over the radio and going up on one-on-one duels. And like, it's crazy. It's crazy that it happened, but I would love to see those kinds of stories played upon and shown to an audience. I think it would be for the best. Hey, D'Angelo, how's it going? If this is post The Rise of Skywalker, will Rogue Squadron, who will Rogue? Yeah, and that's what we're getting at, right? Yeah, it's like who, and that's a great, huge question to ask about this. Who is the enemy? And we can't even begin to know who the enemy is until we even know who the heroes are, right? Or what era it's truly in. Like, is this going to be right after? Is this 10 years after Episode 9 and the Republic is now, situated, and you just have rebelling systems and stuff like that? Like, who knows? But I'm for it being interesting. That said, as a friend of mine was just saying the other day, they did not make Galaxy's Edge and make Rise of the Resistance with characters, ships, and designs that are going to just go away and be erased. Sorry, YouTubers, but that's just not the way that it's going to be. And I think it would be in their best interest to continue to utilize those designs and those molds and stuff like that, So that's just me. Ooh, that leaked out a few days ago. It was on, I can't remember who the writer was now. I wasn't super familiar, but it is out there. If somebody in chat will let me know. Once I drink a couple cups of coffee and it hits 2:00, I don't remember where I'm at. Hey, Dino. Sup from a road trip through Arkansas. Wow, in Arkansas. That's a ways away. Is it super hot out there? Are you guys having that like heat wave that we're having? Kind of. It's not really bad where I'm at. It's definitely hot. but it's not like crazy hot like how it is up in Portland and stuff. They better have Corn Horn cameo. Yeah, and that's where I wonder about when Patty's saying stuff like it's gonna honor like the Stackpole novels and stuff like that. Like, is it? Does it have to? What does that mean actually? And that's not me trying to cast shade and say she's a dishonest person or something like that. It's just like, if it's not set in that era, does it matter? But I started to just wonder right now, like, what if the movie opens with a flashback? Because in fighter pilot stories, like in Top Gun, you have like and in Iron Eagle, the father is either dead and the son is living in the shadow, or he's been captured, and then now the kid needs to take over, right? Well, what if they do a flashback? Like, what if this is the son or daughter or the offspring of somebody from the original Rogue Squadron? You know what I mean? Like, and if they were to do something like that, that would allow for them to put characters that everybody loves in the opening sort of moments of the film, and then they don't have to contend with it anymore. They don't have to erase books and canon or stuff that's in an ambiguous place at all by just showing them in those books, or from those books in those scenes, and then we get to move forward, and it would allow them to show the old stuff with new stuff. I mean, could be cool. Hey Steve, how's it going, dude? They better have a Kiadi Mundi cameo. He's like, oh, I survived Order 66, but I can't close the hatch on the ship with this head. Like, would his X-Wing canopy be like this, and then boop, boop, like in Looney Tunes when they hit you on the head with like an anvil, and then you get that bump? Is that what it would look like? Neil says, I hope they bring back Vort Sabinring from the novels. Man, that is a name. I have to say, Finn is a great Star Wars name. That name is a lot. It's a lot. AntMan is telling Thrawn podcast, I cannot recall anything about Memphis Belle other than the name of the movie. Yeah, I mean, it's like, you have really interesting like moments of like drama. Like, I believe like one of the gunners gets taken out, and it's like dying and stuff like that. It's been a while since I've seen Memphis Belle. It was huge for war movies when it came out in the 80s. And I saw it. Last time I probably saw it was like 2010. That's why I'm a bit fuzzy on it. But I do remember being like, this holds up better than I thought it would. So not sure if I'm recommending it, but if you want to start doing your like movies that may influence Rogue Squadron, I think Memphis Belle would likely be one of them. I think like your watch list would be Dam Busters, Top Gun, Iron Eagle, Memphis Belle. That's a few that I would start with. And then and I'm hoping for Black Sheep Squadron stuff from the Pappy Boynton story. Dino says, any clarity of what happened with the first attempt to film Solo? So there was a lot of stuff that came out that like what I never heard, like that Alden Ehrenreich was acting like Ace Ventura and stuff like that. I never heard any of that. What I heard was that it essentially, the studio was wanting the ability to control the film. The Lego guys, as I will always forever call them, because I cannot recall names today, ever. The Lego guys were like, well, we make comedies. We make 21 Jump Street. We do improv to the script, and then we cut it together. We make the movie in editing. That from what I understand, did not make people very comfortable who were spending a lot of money in the Disney system. So what they were ordered to do was to shoot more coverage. So if you're going to do improv and you're going to do what you're going to do, you're going to shoot more coverage. That way we have more editing options if we want to take the movie from you. They literally said I don't know what they said, but there was an agreement made that they would do it, and then they didn't do it. And I heard that at one point, I don't know if you call them dailies or rushes, whatever, came in, and it was clear that they were not listening. They wouldn't do it. And then it was like, that was the final straw. That's how I heard the story. That is what I heard of the story. And that's all that, and I trust my source. If you've read any accurate reports on my site, you trust the source too. So that's what I heard. That's how I heard it went down. And I've heard that from more than one person as well. So the other stuff, like the stuff with the Ace Ventura kind of stuff, that might be like they were kind of getting silly one day, and like, the scene wasn't working, the improv went into a silly place, and then now all of a sudden it's being painted as this one thing, which journalists and people on the internet love to do. And so, but what I said is what I know, and I think that's accurate. Morgan, how's it going, Morgan? Any chance we see any new live action Wookiees soon? Remember a rumor about one in the Book of Boba? Yeah. How do you say that character's name? Like Black Calrissian or something like that. Sounds like Black Calrissian. It was a cool name, but there was a rumor that if that character was in Boba Fett, and I don't know if that is true. They've made things from Wookiees before, and they didn't really use them, or they will make something and it won't end up in a shot. So it's like, to what degree was it involved? I don't know, but I'm going to say, like, if I would say there's a 25% chance that character from the comic book is going to end up in the Book of Boba. Yeah, I hope so. It's a cool design and a good name. Hey, Mr. Lopez says, I really like Poe, but he's the only one we know, really. Yeah, I mean, we had his buddy, right? And I think he died. And then, you had those aliens, and kind of just is what it is. And I love that last game, that last fighter pilot Star Wars game. So good. But the story elements of it in it were corny. They were really corny, and the characters were, it's going to be honest, they were abysmal. They were really lame. They were like a Tumblr writer's depiction of a Star Wars character. They were a one-dimensional trope of a person. They had no real humanity, and they were just kind of corny. And I love the game, so it didn't matter. But I hope it's not like that. And it's not the diversity that was my issue whatsoever. It was just literally how shallow, sort of stupid, and everybody was kind of a simpleton. AntMan says, do you think they will have Force-sensitive pilots in Rogue Squadron, or will they stay away from that, including Jedi stuff? Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. It begs the age-old question: can Star Wars do anything without lightsabers and without the Force? Can it do it? Rogue One was supposed to do that, and then the Darth Vader became the feature for the popcorn audience on it. It is I would bet you, if it goes that way, it will be sort of like, maybe you'll have that moment where the person in spirit turns off the targeting computer, trusts the instincts, and goes for it. And then we'll be able to interpret that for what it is. And there is always kind of this idea of everyone uses the Force in Star Wars to varying degrees. Han Solo, Poe Dameron, great pilots, not Jedis, but they are doing that in those moments. And they've said that before. Filoni said that before. At the same time, I kind of hope not. At least not at first. I'm not against somebody being like a fighter pilot and then figuring out and developing into something like that. Like it could be really cool, especially if it ends up giving us like a new Luke Skywalker in some way. Like I am cool with that. Like the important thing is that the story, I think, at the very immature child level, is so engaging that the kid really wants to be that hero. And like for Luke, he had an X-wing and he had 2 robots. And in my instance, as a kid, he looked like me, and he had, you know, the lightsaber and the spaceship. Like rad. All of the checkbox features of what a boy in 1984 needed. And so when they make these movies now, adults are watching them with the same intensity as children. So the story has to really evolve into something that works for adults and children too, which the original Star Wars stuff did. But at the same time, like the hero has to be interesting on that in that way as well, you know. And believe it or not, like it's definitely strange how little boys and little girls are different. You know, I didn't raise my kids with like gender specific stuff. Like my daughter wasn't pink and my son wasn't blue. I didn't do anything to make them value one kind of thing over the other, but the way that it went, with through no fault of my own, is my daughter saw me watching, you know, electro pop, and she loves pop music and got obsessed with Poppy and everything is pink. And my son, like I've always taught him that it doesn't matter if somebody is a boy or a girl or what their gender or sex is. And no matter what, he is still gravitating towards that. I'm a boy and I want to see boy heroes. I don't want to play a Fortnite character who's a girl because I'm a boy. And I'm like, okay, so I think he's figuring out his gender, and he's like wanting to identify with that. And that matters. That's why I was always for Rey being the hero in a Star Wars movie. Like, give girls a hero. At the same time, it goes both ways too. Like, boys can't be left out either, you know. And it's just really important that I think Star Wars represents different kinds of people and different kinds of demographics and gives people heroes. That's what's important. And so I'm hoping that whoever the new hero is, I hope it really connects though. And I hope it's interesting. Who are the other pilots? There's just one I could remember besides Poe. Yeah, there was that one like alien that's all up in Battlefront 2. And I think it was in the new Star Wars fighter pilot game as well. Yeah, and you had Greg Grunberg as Snap Wexley, and there wasn't really anybody who we need in it besides Poe and Wedge, I think. AntMan's epic multi-universe, my guess is that they will stay away from the Force and Force users for a while. I think it would be the best thing for that story. On a deep level. If this is about fighter pilots, it's not about Jedi, right? Lopez Greg Grunberg as Snap Wexley is the only other pilot I can think of from the sequels. Yeah, and that ended up being Wedge's stepson, right? It's just Jessica Pava still alive after Revenge Rises. Rises. Wait, ROTS. I think it means Rise of Skywalker, right? It's not Revenge of the Sith. Yeah, I'm not sure. Like it was like the way that the pilots were in and out and stuff like that. It was sort of kind of confusing, but yeah, Pava was cool. Would be cool to see her in it, I think. But I'm not sure if she died or not, or if she died in a book or something. At this point, I can't remember. But you guys can. Collectively, we can do this. Yeah. Dude, Wexley, exactly. There was an alien, but I can't remember the name. It's like Abadado, something like that. I can't remember what the species was. But it's like one of those, sometimes I see like what looks like BS to me, and I just go, blah, blah, okay, and I just keep going, oh, blah, blah. And like that's how I felt about it. Like if it doesn't have sort of like a poetry or a nice flow to the word, then it's a naboozer. That's what they call them, naboozers. Wexley died and was Wedge's stepson. Yeah, so he can't come in, and I think it will be the Grisk, or at least hoping it will be. Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, and it depends on what the situation is. Like, for not that it's going to be, but like when it's Top Gun, you have skirmishes with other people, but the actual thing is a competition. So who knows? Lopez says, "Oh wow, I didn't know that he was related to Wedge. I was trying to remember if he kicked the bucket or not." Yeah, he kicks the bucket, but he's the character. He's in the Aftermath novels, and then Wedge basically becomes his stepdad. And then in one of the books that takes place before episode 9, he tries to enlist them back into the fight. Hey Brett, how's it going? Star Wars Resistance wasn't the greatest, but it would be cool if Cass, Tam, and Tora are the leads of the Rogue Squadron film. Yeah, that's kind of funny. Like, I enjoyed Star Wars Resistance. It wasn't bad. The look was fun. It just wasn't something that I could ever like really get into and connect with like deeply. I watched it with my kids, but it was like we would kind of forget. Like Bad Batch, we don't forget. Like they stay up. I let them stay up for that. And my kids are little vampire night owls, so it's like okay. But so we stay up and we watch it at midnight. With Resistance, and it wasn't that way. And the characters were fun, but they didn't connect enough. And I would have liked to have seen that series leaned more into the Speed Racer kind of roots. That I felt like it had a good Speed Racer foundation at one point, and that kind of fell away. And it would have been, I think, more fun to have a Speed Racer inspired Star Wars show entirely. And that could have been it. Hey Josh, for Rogue Squadron, they should have like 2 main characters, 1 boy, 1 girl, maybe a third who's an alien. If it's just 1 central character, I hope it's a guy, but Patty would probably make it a girl. Yeah. And once again, it's like, it doesn't really matter, but, and it's an uphill battle if it gets too complicated on that front. But yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious as to what they do. I'm curious to see if it matters. But like at the same time, like I was talking about my son, right? My son just wants to be Poe and Finn, and he likes Rey, but he doesn't want to be her, and he doesn't identify with that character. And but my daughter totally loves Rey, and it works for her. So on one hand, like I feel like in my house, if it's a boy or if it's a girl, somebody wins, But at the same time, like I think it's also fair to not assume a default in that conversation. So, yeah, yeah, right, Tim. It was in one of the Aftermath books. Star Wars Santa says, I've observed that kids in general don't ask for action figures. Lego is popular. You're totally right. My son, like, he wants me to drop $300 on Lego stuff for him for Christmas, and I'm like, no, and then I do it. It's just, it is what it is, I love Legos as a kid too, so I get it, but maybe if they were making Star Wars Legos, it would have been different. But I don't know. I still don't think the action figures would have been defeated for our generation. The action figures were just cool. I'm a salacious rum. Raptor says, nerds are sleeping on you, dude. Nerds need to recognize to get the views up. Oh, it's cool, man. As long as we are all here and there's enough of us to have a conversation, that's all that matters to me. Neil says, at Star Wars Santa, I find that pretty sad because action figures were such a big thing from me when I was a kid and later on as a collector. Yeah, we have to ask ourselves if we killed it for them. I stopped collecting action figures deeply around Attack of the Clones. The line just kind of had cool stuff, but then started to feel kind of garbagey. And I started to realize that as an adult, I was a vintage collector and I liked the production photography on the package, and that just does a lot for me. Those two representations together. So I still get into it, but they never really make me that happy with what they've done. So I haven't really got back into it. But when you have, adults fighting over things and all you have is like one or two figures on every peg at the store because everybody's bought everything up to collect and get two of every one and all that jazz, it's just kind of impossible for kids, I think, to maintain an interest. It kind of doesn't work. And I've had my son say, Dad, like I want a Boba Fett. I want to get a new Boba Fett figure. And I'm just like, dude, I don't think they're making one right now. And he'll be like, come on. And we'll go to the store and it'll be like ones he's had for a long time or ones he's not interested in. Whereas when we were kids, there would be a billion of them. And I have to say, I almost think it would be in the whole line's best. No, everyone's going to hate me for this. It would be in Star Wars' best interest if they made the action figures way more simplistic, way cheaper, way easier to produce, way easier to have more of at a cheaper price and for everybody. But collectors want to take it to that next level. And it's just such a... I love the Black Series stuff. I think it's awesome. But for me, that 3 1/4 inch is where it's at. So like if you have the quality at 3 1/4 inch on a vintage style card, I'd be all about it. But then I'm even harder to please because like when they do like the logo and like the logo's red, I'm like, the Mandalorian's not a red logo or whatever it happens to be. Like you didn't get the spirit of the film with that logo. And I like the vintage style logos a lot though, but when they're the right style. Lopez tells Santa, maybe that's not a bad thing. Could save them thousands of dollars in the future. Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, that's when I truly lost interest and was able to step away from all collectibles. It was truly a nice feeling. And it's good too, because I don't ever have any guilt. I've never had it, but I've never had any guilt where I'm like, oh, I bought myself a collectible and I didn't buy my daughter, a toy. Star Wars Santa says, yeah, in a store mall Santa and hear hundreds of requests a day from kids. They want video game stuff for the most part. Trading cards somewhat. Lego are the most popular toy by far. And that is true in my house too. It's all Fortnite skins and Lego. Pokemon. Dale says, so you're saying Luke won't show up and save Omega? Hello there, everyone. Hey, dude. Hey, Dale. Good to see you, man. I hope not. I mean, if it was like the very end of the show and then they're like, that's where she goes, then I'm cool with it in that instance. But if you're going to have a season like ending, like it's better if it hinges on the hero, I think. So Neil says hi. Isn't Luke 3 weeks old at this point in the timeline? If he shows up to save her, it would make for an amazing episode. Well, I didn't mean like when we were talking about it. I was talking about like in the context of later on in life that Omega, if she had force powers and was going in that direction, that she may be just like Grogu and with the same interest and part of the same project. And it might be why they want her or something like that. But I don't think they're going in that direction now. Not at all. Lopez says they fly it now. Line to me wasn't really about canon or comics. I thought it was pretty lame because of the universe around it, the history, the technology available. Why wouldn't they fly? Yeah, and that's a fair enough thing. I would say when I saw the movie, every time the audience like laughed at that moment, like it was an Indiana Jones level gag, and it connected at the screenings I was at. That's one of the things about watching a movie a lot of times is that when you start to pay attention to the audience a lot. And so that's kind of where I sort of would use to kind of gauge where things were mattering and stuff like that, where they weren't, you know what I mean? So yeah, I lost my place again. Here we go. So yeah, okay, now I'm catching up. So anyway, so Kenneth says, there's always a bit of truth in legends, has helped my head canon with any contradictions. Yeah, I mean it's a good way to look at it. And it's always, I think, good to remember that whatever the good element was, it will be extrapolated upon probably in the future. Like we were talking about Mara Jade yesterday. I mean, there's so much gold there. I think they will one day mine that gold, and it will just have to be reconfigured into the current story. And then you treat the other one as a legend. If it helps people, imagine there's two idiots on this random no-name planet, and it's me and you. And that book is one of us telling each other that story incorrectly every time. And then when you see the current canon, oh, that's what really happened. Neil says Lucasfilm is putting out so much material, novels, comics, and games that they're bound to have some discrepancies. Yeah, you're totally true. You're totally accurate. You are going to have that. It's just there's like no way around it. Star Wars Senate says, wait, I thought we established with all the UFOs are real news that Star Wars is actually history of a galaxy far away. Yeah, right? I know. I'm like, Rick says the internet's best UFO podcast. Man, that video the other night, I felt really bad for what's his name, Jeremy, who released that, because it's like when you put his videos together and like there's some of them are like in a series, it's like, oh, well, this is all supporting the videos support each other. And everyone's just like, oh, it's just a couple of lights. Like, this isn't amazing. And then the government's like, yeah, that's real. That happened. And then he's still like, I saw on the Reddit, on the RUFOs subreddit, they were like, there's like a petition to ban him. I'm like, what? A petition to ban him? Like the guy is feeding you. And it was such an eye-opening thing for me, because there has been times when I've gotten information and brought it to the fandom, like, guys, here it is. Here's the answer. And then everybody hates me for it. And I always was just like, well, was that me? Was that how I did it? What could I have done better? And then I started to realize there was no way around it. And then now I see that maybe this is just humanity. Maybe this is humans in general. There is no way to make everyone happy. But man, I'm still that UFO news. It's crazy. I can't get it. I can't get past it. When I'm not dreaming about Star Wars, I'm just like, when are they going to disclose that it's all real? Thrawn Talk podcast. Check him out, by the way. If you want to listen to a podcast, you may agree with him, you may not, but check him out. I think he's a great guy. Jump troopers would be expensive for any remnant forces of the Empire. So by the time of Poe and co, seeing First Order troopers fly would likely be new to them. Yeah, that's a fair explanation. I mean, it's like when here's the way I look at Star Wars. When something petty gets in your way, then just justify it. When it's petty. When it's big, then, well, good luck. So, yeah. Let me see. Make sure. Matt says, sorry, mobile didn't prove it. See, that just says my name. Black Sheep Squadron, right? Or what were those things called? They're not Katie. The ones when Padme and Anakin are frolicking in the internet's hottest new meme. What those, like, space cows? Equivalent of a space sheep. Hey, Darth Del Rio, good to see you. I hope post episode 9 we have a shakeup in the status quo and not return to a one-on-one galactic government being good or bad. Yeah, I think that could be cool too. Like it would be maybe in Star Wars' best interest, even if you don't get right to a new republic, if you get to a situation where you have competing governments, maybe one centralized. Maybe it's like, maybe the galaxy should be like, I don't know how this is the right way to put it, for especially since we have people from all over the world here, but the United States, or like a union, as opposed to one galactic government for everything. Maybe going in that way would allow systems that, which they kind of have with the representation. They have a Senate and stuff like that, but maybe not going with that Supreme Chancellor is the way to go. But in doing that, you could definitely have it where you have competing states and they would war, and galaxies could fight other galaxies and stuff like that. And would really like keep things open, where it would keep war constant for stories, but not have everything being about the destruction of one government. That lesson, very important, and it was passed on by George Lucas, and we got it, or we didn't. A lot of us didn't get it, but we did. It's there, and so I don't know if we need it reiterated over and over, or do we? I don't know. You tell me. With after the years that we've had, maybe we do need it reiterated constantly. So yeah. Darth Del Rio says, I agree. Or Neil's talking to Darth Del Rio and agrees a galaxy with multiple factions governments would be very interesting. Yeah. And that's kind of like how I think it is, like in the Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers kind of stories. Like, you're like, oh, you're in the Hawkmen territory. Don't mess with them. And sometimes the Hawkmen will go to war with other, galaxies or whatever. So, Mikhail Robinson is writing it. Thank you, AntMan. That is the Rogue Squadron movie. Yeah, and I don't know. I have to check out what other things they've done, because I remember looking at it and being like, I'm not really deeply familiar with any of this. So, was Obi the OG Chappie? Right? I was when I first saw that, I thought you were talking. I read Chappie as Chappelle, and I remembered the old Chappelle's show sketch about the prequel era Jedi. That was like the Catholic priest scandal of the time. Maybe still this time, I'm not sure. Mark Hamilton says, I hope the honoring what came before is more like just lip service, that Leslie Headland was echoing the same sentiments. I think it's part of the PR spiel moving forward. You could be right about that. I mean, you could look at it like, I guess, two ways. Way number one, both people they happen to hire to work that series in this picture were both super fans, and they wanted to get them out there, and they're able to talk about that stuff, and it was easy, and it just was what it was. And then the other way is say these things, and we don't get as much grief on the internet. Both are possible. I've seen it firsthand, exactly how controlling that side of things can be. But then there's other times when there is just nothing there, and you would be surprised. So far it hasn't been so huge that I'm like, it's totally that. But if it keeps going, we'll see. Because it is like, on one hand, how do you win over your most vocal detractors? And that's to say, hey, I'm one of you, right? I mean, that's kind of like what a lot of grifts are on the internet too. You make everybody agree to hate one thing, or they all hate one thing, and then you unite on that, and then you make it a personality. But in this instance, it's just like, hey, I know these things, and at the end of the day, as good as the Stackpole novels are, I don't think that they translate to screen like in a visually stimulating way necessarily. So I don't even know what the value. She could be the world's biggest Stackpole fan. She can make the book verbatim, and I don't think that's going to necessarily make it a good movie, even if it's a good book. Dale says, Exegol ended the Sith and their followers. They were so adamant about that for the Empire. Reaction we saw in The Mandalorian. There might be some First Order straggling, though. Yeah, there really could be. I mean, and like, when you get down to it, like, I think we're going to learn, or we've seen elements where things weren't great under the New Republic for everyone. It wasn't necessarily working out. It was struggling when it got started. And then the First Order comes up in the middle of that too. And so it kind of goes, it's you have to have war. So at some point, if they focus on the elements of the failings that cause the things too much, then we end up going like, oh geez. But what if Rogue Squadron creates a new issue? And when I say a new issue, I don't just mean it's like, oh, this new race of plants are coming to kill us all, or the Yuzan Vong are here. Like, I just mean like just a general reason for upheaval in spots that you keep having to push down. Like the Avengers movies, like it's like there's some continuity between the films and there's the connectivity there. And then, but you also have like new things that pop up like Ultron and this and that, and that they have to deal with. So maybe that's the way that they could take this era and make our heroes, in that kind of environment. I'm more interested in Grisk infiltrating the known galaxy, or them going out to Cilia to help them fight the Grisk. If I'm saying this stuff wrong, I'm sorry. Maybe the First Order would become the friend of their enemy. Yeah, yeah. That, I mean, there's you have like always have like those kinds of potential elements. I mean, at the same time, like a suit at Disney is probably going to be happiest when they see an X and a sideways eye, a TIE fighter, fighting each other. Like, so I kind of don't know what to think of that. But also remember, like I was saying, Rise of the Resistance is their biggest, best ride ever. It came out, it hasn't even got to be used that much because of the last year, but it's there, and they invested in these theme parks for it. I gotta say, it would be foolish to not set more stories in that time frame just for the theme parks alone. Like, if it's not a huge reason to not do it. Mr. Hamilton says Memphis Belle was crazy good at the time. Did it age well? Effects, I mean. Yeah, that's kind of where it's at. Like, I kind of think like if somebody who's grown up on CGI saw it today, they might go like, ew, at times. But once again, this chat's just making me want to watch Memphis Belle to remember to see if it was any good. I'll see if it's going to be on TV at all on the old YouTube TV and set it to record. If not, do you think the Jedi will have a strong presence in the Acolyte? I think so. I mean, I almost have to think that like it's going to. I mean, it's all right now an assumption because there really hasn't been enough movement to know anything about it. But it's like you'd have to think that they're going to go like a route where either a Jedi starts to learn of the Sith and then begins to defect in that way, and then to take on this religion, almost like, I mean, sort of like a priest who gets possessed sort of situation, but like with this knowledge. And or it's like about someone who's becoming the first new secret Sith apprentice in a very long time to honor the rule of two, and how the machinations start to get into play to take down the Republic and the Jedi. So in that way, you can't have them revealing themselves to the Jedi, and if they are, the Jedi has to die or never be able to share their knowledge for some good story reason. So, but man, I am you ask a good question, Johannes. Like, that's a very good question. I have to imagine that we would see Jedi of the time. At the same time, where does this take place to the novels and stuff? Will we see the Jedi from the novels in this story as Jedi, or does this take place 100 years after the novels? Those Jedi are mostly dead and or irrelevant to the story. So it's, yeah. Hopefully we start to get answers soon, though. Oh, Mr. Manabite says, remember when the Lego guys said Kennedy didn't like how they folded their socks? That was code for what you were describing. Yeah, it makes sense. Mark Hamilton says, Pinewood Rebelling suggests the crew passed their concerns up the ladder about them being out of their depth and unable to cover their basics before they did more left field ad lib stuff. Yeah, I don't know about that. A couple of I know some people who worked on that crew and who were there on the day of the firing, and I heard about the day of the firing, but and how that went down. But it like I said, it's what I said was what I think really happened. And crew members don't, my thing, and maybe you know something that I don't, so I'm not trying to say that one way or the other, but crew members don't usually go like, I disagree with what the director's doing, I'm gonna go call Lucasfilm. Like, it doesn't, you know what I mean? That the crew pass their concerns up the ladder. I don't know about that one, unless you know something that I don't know. And maybe it is true, but I heard it was all about coverage. Lord and Miller, yeah. I never thought they had the resume experience to get a Star Wars movie. Why they were hired is beyond me. Well, I mean, they're hilarious. And so if you wanted to have those gags like going back and forth, I could see that working. Um, but we don't really know. Maybe one day we'll get to see their cut. I doubt it, because I don't think they got to finish, so there probably isn't one. But I'm curious. I'm curious to learn more about it. Maybe one day. Um, at Seymour, I think is the alien. Yeah. Any predictions for tomorrow's episode of the Bad Batch? Man, what do you guys think? Do you think should we be expecting Boba Fett? Should we be hoping for Boba still? Or is that stupid? Because I'm still hoping that we see Boba Fett show up, and that we have that moment of about family, and her having to decide who her family is. Somebody who was just blood related that she doesn't know, or the people she's been living with, who've been taking care of her and love her. So my guess is they head back to Ord Mantell. Well, I know that it's going to end on Ryloth. So Cham Syndulla, that's a prediction that I think is a good one. I'd also guess they look for info on Jango and Boba. Yeah, I mean, it's like that's like the other part of all of this is like, if she's as wanted, that wanted, why isn't Boba as wanted? Was there ever an explanation for that I missed? Is it just simply like the contract that they had? And in that contract, is it still valid under Imperial rule? Star Wars in game. Hey, how's it going, Star Wars in game? Is there any chance for one more of this stream? What did I miss so far? Quick recap, please. Don't worry, you could always come back and watch it. It'll be on YouTube. I'm not sure if Facebook and Twitch allow it to be streamed again. I don't know how that works. I'm this is my first time doing it, but you could definitely rewatch it on YouTube. And on YouTube, it seems like it takes a minute or a little while for it to like show up in the video feed. I don't know why that is either. There's all kinds of things about YouTube that are just straight up mysteries to me still. Mark says, adult collectors have made it impossible for the big stores to keep any supply in stock. Saying that the kids don't want TFA, Rogue One, Last Jedi, and so on, toys is completely pivoted to adult collecting. Yeah, you're not wrong there. You're completely right. I mean, it's like only like the junky kind of trashy toys are left. I never understood why Hasbro doesn't have a straight up subscription service and then the ability to buy whatever else they make beyond that offering directly from them, like in a pre-order form. And if it was free shipping on that, it would just totally be great for collectors. I never understood how they could never make that work. Oh no, it's Patrick. Fuck that. Give people a Jerry Blank TV stealing subplot. Is this the Patrick? My Jerry Blank? My real life Jerry Blank? Or is this a different Patrick? But I went to grad school, and one of my best friends ever is a dude named Patrick. And we always talked about our love of Strangers with Candy. And when she was in the end episode of The Mandalorian, and I texted him, I'm like, she's in. Jerry Blink is in Star Wars. And yeah, I love her. Mark Hamilton's always speaking the truth. In an infinite universe, multiverse, it is history. True. Hey, Joel, how's it going? You would get so many good background characters with 5 POA. That doesn't happen with the vintage collection. Yeah, that's always kind of like my thing too. Like when you're a kid, like you get your heroes, and then you just want like a bunch of randos after that. Throntok says, "Thanks for the shout out. Look out for my next show where I interviewed Dominic Pace, Gecko from The Mandalorian." Oh, cool! Congratulations. A kind of confederacy of independent systems, right? Yeah, I mean, maybe those guys had some stuff right. Like Dooku was a Jedi, and Dooku is a person who did the wrong thing for the right reason. At least he thought so. He got tricked just like they all did, but he didn't just like go and make that choice because he's an idiot. He was clearly a highly intelligent individual or character, and that probably is the way that they should do it as an independent star systems, and who are, I kind of agree with them there. Josh says, I hope the next big villain group in Star Wars Post 9 comes from another galaxy like the Yuuzhan Vong. They could do anything they want with the characters and ships from another galaxy. Yeah, I mean, like I liked a lot how they handled it in the High Republic, like with those pirates, that those marauders, which are like essentially space Vikings. And it's like, what happens when you deny a bunch of people that have the ability to kick your ass, the basics of life? And what do they become? They become raiders, because people are going to provide for their families either way. So it's kind of it's an interesting thing, but at the same time, I don't want it to be like 2D. If it's 2D and it's just stormtroopers, fine, then like there you go. But when it's like a new alien race, it's like it becomes a hard one for me, because like when it's an alien race, well, so there's more of them than everybody in all of the thousands of races in the Star Wars galaxies and species and all that. It just kind of like it becomes sort of, for me, it kind of like a lame problem if I overthink it. But that's just me. But we'll see. And maybe if they do it, it'll be fun. Mark says they could bring back some of the EU governments. Yeah, it would make sense. What about more of a UN model instead of this? Yeah, a UN model that's what I was reaching for. That would make more sense, because then you could like literally have these different. You could have republics and empires and all of the stuff in that space still, and they wouldn't agree, but there would be like a place for them to talk, so you could still have the Coruscant kind of stuff, but it would allow for these systems to go to war and for it to be dicey. And that's not the best idea, but you want war. You want the system to be broken enough that war happens, right? Each system has its own government and is generally independent, sovereign from another system. Yeah, and they have a mutual body to determine joint factions. Exactly. And even a place to declare war if they should need it for the story. Stephen Barnes. Hey, how's it going, Stephen? In all honesty, which character do you believe was wasted more in the sequels, Luke or Yoda? So I am of the opinion that Luke was used 100% correctly. That is, for more or less, there's old podcast episodes where I talk about it. I mean, but Luke was what I would have done. And I went to a screening of Return of the Jedi in 2014, and it was hosted. Hamill was supposed to be joined by Carrie Fisher, and I believe was supposed to be joined by Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford, but they both didn't show. So it was just Hamill, which is great though. And he was talking about what he wanted to do and how he was attending story meetings, and he's like, I don't want to fight. I don't want to get lightsaber fighting fit. I'm 60 or whatever he said, And it was like, okay, so I always had the expectation that this guy is not going to be doing that stuff. So, and I think that the way that he was used was a genius way that did not go against what he was. He essentially became a pacifist, and then he lost his way. And as he starts to come back to himself, he shows up as a pacifist again and doesn't fight. So I thought that was a great use of the character personally. and it allowed him to do some of the stuff. We got to see some of the look of him with the saber, but it didn't really require too much of Hamill. I also heard, I don't know if this is out there, but when he was doing that scene in The Last Jedi, he got hurt. He was injured when he for that fight. I want to say his leg was was pretty jacked up, but I think it was his leg. I could be wrong about that. It's been a long time now. I wasn't allowed to talk about it back then, so I kind of forgot. Kind of pushed it down. I'll have to see if I have it in my notes somewhere. But anyways, Yoda, I guess, would be the one who was wasted, but at the same time, the use of Yoda was also good. Yoda shows up to remind Luke not to take himself so seriously and to get his ass back in gear. So, yeah, and could Yoda have been used more? I mean, it would just depend on how much of a relationship Rey should have had with them. I would have loved if they had handled the past with Rey by having Rey literally talk to those Force ghosts. You know how Luke talked to Obi-Wan and Dagobah and Jedi? I would have liked to have seen moments like that where she's having a problem with what is going on, and then they talk about what they did and why they did it. And I thought this way and I thought that way, and then she's just seeing I'm not the only one here, and this has been going on. I would have loved it to have happened that way, because then, like Luke, she would have had to have gone into the battle on her own with that knowledge. But a shack. How did I forget? Thank you, Joel. The old shack attack. So those were the space cows. Star Wars Santa says, for some reason I had K-Do on the brain. K-Do on the brain. Star Wars Santa says, you should come and put your predictions in my poll. Regrade them after the show. See if you can beat Santa's predictions. Ooh, I will try and do that. And is that open to everyone? If it's open to everyone, then we could definitely do it and talk about Santa's poll too. Steven says, can't you see the chat? Yeah. But what happens is that I am on a question and answering it. And as I go down, if a bunch of chats will load in for me, and then it pushes it up, and then I lose my spot in the chat, and then I have to go find it all. But if I skip something, I apologize. Sometimes I will skip something on accident, and that just is what it is. But we are hitting the 2-hour mark, and Star Wars Santa says it is open to everyone. So let's all go and do that. That way we can see if we outguess Santa. I have to go pick up my childrinos and take them out to a very, very early dinner today. And but it was really fun hanging out with everybody today. I hope everything sounded right this time. I hope it was in stereo and not mono or one speaker like last time is what I heard, if that was accurate. And yeah, we will be back. I will be back tomorrow, probably about this time. Same bat time, same bat channel. And yeah, and then get the link approval from Jason. Okay. Yeah, and so I will, yeah, and if I'm able to put the link to that, I will. Okay, wait. He says you can find the link on my live stream video from today. I'll email it to Jason. Okay, cool. I will make sure to tweet it out, and we can see, we can make our predictions. But that said, yeah, not much time left though. We only have a few hours until the episode. So you can't watch the episode and then beat Santa. That does not count, and he will know if you're lying, because he is Santa. But I will see everyone tomorrow. Please make sure you subscribe to the show, on whatever platform you are on. Like it, and let me know what you guys want to hear more of. And if you guys have any story ideas or whatever, or just should say topic ideas, let me know. And any news hits that you want to see on the show, send it my way. That's always appreciated. And we will hit that stuff tomorrow. And I am open to any suggestions about other times for streams too, that we can do this, but I'm still aiming for about the same time every day, just because, consistency is key into keeping things going. And If anybody has any questions that they want, send it my way. If you want to support the channel, you can become a channel member on YouTube. Right now, that is the best way to support the show. If I could ever get back into the old Patreon account, I could open that back up. If that was a better way for you to support the channel, I could try and do that too. I have a different phone number. I don't know how to get into it without that phone now. That's the way it goes. That's life. But Throntalk says, that's it. Yeah, dude. If you ever want to come on, you're welcome to come on too. And Jordan asked, what's the best way to ask you questions? Well, this is the best way. Obviously, you can come to the live stream, but if you can't make it, you can email, you could DM on Twitter. Twitter DMs and email are probably like the two best ways if you can't come to the chat itself. The Facebook responses are kind of get easy to lose. So, it kind of goes that way. But at the same time, if it's a very open-ended one, I will eventually see it everywhere, I think. But yeah, and I look forward to hearing from you, Jordan. And with the channel members thing on YouTube, we have, like I said, like a private area as well. And anybody who posts a question in there for the show, just right for the show, and put the question in there, and I will see it. And I will screenshot it and put it into the days folder, and we will for sure get to it. Because I know that people can't always be here during the workday for them or whatever it happens to be. So I want you to be part of the discussion, even if you can't be here, because these obviously can be rewatched on YouTube. I'm assuming they could be rewatched on Twitch, but I don't even know. Maybe I have to check a box or something. I haven't messed with Twitch too much yet, but I'm getting into it. Today's my first day, so I've taken my first step into a much larger world with Facebook video, Twitch, and YouTube. So everyone, thanks guys for number one, showing up. Love it. Number two, for keeping the discussion going by myself for 2 hours. And number three, for your support. I appreciate it. You guys are the best, and keep enjoying Star Wars. I hope everyone enjoys the Bad Batch tonight if they stay up, or tomorrow when they see it. And let's get to Santa's question and see if we could let's see if we could out predict the claws. All right. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.